Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 302, Diplomacy versus Violence. The Roman Church has a long history of promoting diplomacy, promoting free exchange of ideas and free exchange of ideas and conversation and like argumentation and rhetoric. The university system was essentially founded on the backs of the Roman Church. We had ecclesiastical courts back in the Middle Ages, which would take people out of civil courts when they were being persecuted unjustly for thought crimes and like blasphemy laws and everything else. The Roman Church has essentially created the idea of the university system, science, and being able to do things without getting in trouble. Now, all the Protestants and the secular atheists out there will say, what about Galileo? What about the Inquisition? What about, I get it. I understand that. But these are tiny little fragments of the history of the Roman Church. And frankly, Copernicus was carried on the shoulders of giants in the Rome when he was saying similar things. And Galileo was persecuted by the church. And what's the difference? Well, first off, Copernicus was a gentleman. Second off, what was in between the two? Well, the Protestant Reformation, where the Protestants posed the argument that the Roman Church wasn't hard enough on people that were blaspheming. So, and Galileo, they were losing some members of the Roman Church to Lutheranism over the idea that the Roman Church was not dogmatic enough on Scripture and was allowing people to say blasphemy. And that's why they persecuted Galileo. But all that being said is the people in this society, this culture that believe it's reasonable to yell at people and scream them down and try to stop arguments through insults and smearing and mudslinging. What you're doing is you're actually removing the wonderful gift of diplomacy, which has been predominantly a gift of the Roman Catholic Church. And when you do that, you no longer have an outlet for your ideas and your disagreements verbally. And when you do that, you create frustration and anger. And after that, there's only two outlets. One is walking away and not dealing with your fellow man. The other one is violence. And, it's amazing. We could have 8 million humans living in New York City and 30 million humans in LA County, and pretty much all interaction amongst humans is pretty civil, very little violence, there's a couple murders every now and then, some muggings and whatever else, but for the most part, humans are very good at getting along with one another. There's no other animal on earth that's able to do that. You throw 8 million chimpanzees in New York City, in 1 year they'd be down to probably 500,000 through murder. They rip each other apart when they get a chance to do it, and like silverbacks and baboons and wolverines and badgers, you name it. Humans are very good at the diplomatic mission. And so I guess I want to talk to the hard left here. The Roman Catholic Church has promoted an idea of diplomacy, and it's quite interesting that you're against diplomacy because you scream and yell at people you disagree with. That's not diplomacy. Diplomacy is a free exchange of ideas and reasoned thought. And when you have a disagreement, you actually have conversation about it. You don't drive people away from one another. And I guess I wanted to say that as a warning because I love the fact that humans can have exchange of ideas because it is the reason why we're able to work out our problems in civil ways. If you shut people down, you yell and you scream, or you get just so offended that you can't even stand it, what that does is it removes diplomacy from the equation, and it only leaves people with anger and violence. And so what you're doing, not indirectly, actually directly, is you're promoting violence through your yelling and your screaming, your mudslinging and whatever else. So hard left out there, all you politically correct people that want to control the situation through unreasonable manners, just realize what you're doing very directly, and it is your fault, by the way. You are promoting violence in your society through removing the diplomatic exchange of ideas. Something to think about, and we as Roman Catholics should always resort to diplomacy when we're able to. The only time violence is ever on the table is if there's an intrinsic evil that can't be solved any other way. Say somebody charges in your house with a knife saying they're going to chop you up. Well, then you can use some violence. But other than that, you really can't. You got to use your diplomatic exchange until you wear that out and the intrinsic evil cannot be solved with anything but violence. That's the Roman Catholic way. This is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Like or subscribe, get the Mass, pray the daily rosary, and do live a sacramental life. God bless you all. God bless.